Hi, everybody. Parnell Woodard, your host from the Pivot Point, and really excited to bring you a gentleman today that I have the pleasure of calling an old friend. Not old in age, but old in terms of years ago. We worked together back in the late '90s at Seagram Spirits and Wine. Please welcome Del Paez to the session today. A little background on Del: he's got about 25 years of senior executive experience across startups, small to mid-sized businesses, and global consumer goods as well. Dynamic leader, really renowned for driving revenue and profitable growth. He excels at transforming vision into tangible results, building brands, and achieving some very ambitious business objectives. His expertise spans strategic planning, business development, mergers and acquisitions, capital raise, investor relations, product development, branding, and some international expansion as well. Real strength there. He co-founded Orinoco Spirits in 2014. So we'll spend a little time on digging into his experiences with building that business. That spearheaded the distribution of French spirits in Latin America. And he also served as CEO of MPI Franchising, helping successfully expand an American franchise into 7 countries. He's held executive roles at Pernod Ricard and Joseph E. Seagram and Sons. Welcome, Del. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Parnell. Good to see you one more time. And yes, it is unbelievable. It's been so long
I know
back there that,
time
but
flies. I know.
here we are.
I try not to think about it. They were great
I
times. We
know
had such a great crew. It was an amazing place to be. So,
it was.
um,
It was.
I want to jump into a little bit around what inspired you to leave the corporate world and really start your own business. It's a big step for a lot of people, leaving that security blanket of corporate America. But what inspired you to leave the corporate world and head out on your own?
Well, that's a loaded question because there's a lot of things that were happening at the time. I had a tremendous career with Seagram. I started as a brand manager and climbed up, and actually I lived I'm originally from Venezuela, so I came to Miami, and from there I went to Argentina. I was managing several countries there, came back to New York, and so I've been in the spirits world for a long time. And I was always seeking that opportunity to do something else. So I had that worm in me that I would do something on my own. And Seagram got bought out by Pernod Ricard, and there was all this transition. And I said, you know what? Although I'm in a corporate in a good position, you know, it could end at any time. So let's get something prepared. So I did spend about 2 years, thinking about what I could do, what my skill was, and but I always had that bug that I could be here for many years or maybe not, because with all these corporate changes, acquisitions and reorganizations, you always ask the question, could it be me next? So it was more about controlling my destiny
Hmm.
and building something that I could leverage with my knowledge, my network. But there were a lot of things that were happening at the time. That transition with a French company, it changed the culture of the company. So I said, this is the time to do it. And that was 2004.
Hmm. Wow. So then, in terms of Orinoco, when it kind of got up and running in 14, what did you do for those 10 years? You had this idea. You really wanted to make this happen. How did you
Absolutely.
close that gap?
Well, absolutely. There's two. The one thing I did out of corporate America, I had a project already doing consulting, and it was more, yeah, geared towards marketing consulting. It was a group that had some marketing methodologies to implement for small medium sized businesses. However, I started with that. I actually became the highest revenue generator of the group of about 100 people on the consulting side. And however, I realized that starting a consulting business requires at least 2 people. One that's always fishing for the next client, the other one that does the work.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've learned that the hard way, and it was a roller coaster at the time. Um, and but doing my consulting, I ended up meeting a Polish gentleman who had um, started a vodka brand. And I said, this I could help you on this. And we kind of came together. We raised money. We raised about 1.2 million of investor money, and we started working the brand. And it went really well in Florida. We were, as you know, the spirits business, you got to start in one place and make it good before you start spreading it yourself too thin. So I did that for a while, and at the time, um, we were doing very well in Florida. We got R&D, Republic National RNDC to take our brand. And I thought, hey, we hit the jackpot here. We got a major distributor. And then then I realized that we were still doing the work ourselves. So it's like, oh gosh, and then you pass on the orders to the distributor, and they would just fill the order. But but it required a lot of capital. You know that. I mean, a spirits brand that you foresee to become something important is a very, very heavy investment up front.
Yeah.
Um, and so we did very well. And once we had some good track, we sold the brand. We actually sold the brand to not to Brown Forman, to the owners of Diplomatico rum, which was a rum that I developed while I was in Seagram. I did the whole development of that product, and and that product just got sold about a couple of years ago, and I understand it was about $700 million, and Brown Forman bought it. So this crew bought our vodka because our distribution was really good, and they wanted to get more penetration with their rums, and so we sold the brand at the time to them, and then from there, I said, well, I know the business. I partnered up with Enrique Alvarez, who was a VP in duty free and of the Americas. So we both had a nice network of distributors around Latin America, and I went out searching for brands that could be available to us, and we actually found one. It was called Highland Queen, a Scotch, um, and because our main market is Venezuela. That's our background, and that's the highest consuming Scotch market among the highest in the world. We just started with that, and nowadays it's a business that runs on its own. We put everything in place. We have a team that takes care of the distributors, and we're just shipping containers out there to the distributors. So we kind of became a broker of spirits.
Interesting. So, as a smaller company, right, in Orinoco, was there a particular problem, or was it more of a passion or something you wanted to pursue that you couldn't do in a corporate setting that the smaller company and that startup mentality allowed you to do?
Well, absolutely, because if you own a brand, you own everything. So the decisions you make on your own with your business partner. Um, but I got to tell you, there was one shock to me was I had my business card from being in Pernod Ricard when they purchased Seagram, and I had my title. And it's funny when you become an entrepreneur, that title disappears,
Yeah.
and your network kind of changes. Your network is a different one. And one of the things that to me was incredible was the people I thought would help me didn't, and the people I never expected to help me.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, so that was a learning, of being an entrepreneur. And I said at that time, I was like, oh, we got to network, start networking heavily, because my network is, they can help us, and in some cases, our past friends, gave us a hand and helped us get into certain channels. Um, but that was a tough one to realize that you no longer had a title there.
Yeah. In terms of challenges coming out of corporate America, starting your own, Was there something in particular that you felt was really challenging or was the hardest part about leaving the structure and security of that corporate job?
Well, absolutely. It's a corporate job. You know when you're getting paid,
Hmm.
and you don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So when you're on your own and you're looking, your bank account's going down, and I better get some money into that bank account. That to me is the toughest.
Okay.
Is to manage your cash flow correctly, and you have to make decisions that you wouldn't make as a corporate
Yeah.
employee. So, and I what I mean is just fast decisions, and maybe take some risk,
Hmm.
because that is what entrepreneurship is. It's risk taking,
Yeah.
and it's betting on something that you believe could be a strong company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was some of the challenges were there,
Yeah.
and a lot on the networking side of the business.
Did you face any resistance from family, friends, colleagues? And if so, how did you handle it?
I did not, and it was amazing. My family supported me, my parents supported me, and my dad was like, "Yeah, go at it, go." And
Nice.
my mother's a cheerleader, so I did not have anyone question what I was doing. It was normal. I mean, we came from the spirits world,
Hmm.
and I'm working with spirits brands,
Yeah.
so it just they just saw it as a next step.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there any specific resources or mentors, that really helped you navigate some of those early days and those early challenges?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, my father is an entrepreneur. He's still alive. He's 92, and he's still we're working together on a business deal.
That's great. That's great.
So yeah, Dad gave me a lot of I would run by him some ideas. So he's besides being my dad, he was also my coach.
Yeah, yeah, that's good to hear. Were there any misconceptions you had about entrepreneurship before you started out? Were there certain things you expected, certain things that maybe were easier than you expected or harder than you expected?
I think that to be an entrepreneur, you got to have a spirit of success, and you even if you fall, you get up and you keep going,
Yeah,
and you got to believe on that north, on that objective. um so the most difficult part is to stay focused on that objective, and and not have that roller coaster ride affect what your vision is. um so that was a challenge, and as I said before, your cash flow is a challenge.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Um, how has being an entrepreneur and having your own business affected your work-life balance, your personal goals?
It's that's a good question. It was funny because when I left corporate America, I said and I started my consulting gig. Um, some of that I could have just had my pajamas on and worked from my computer,
Yeah,
but I made it. I obligated myself to get up, exercise, get ready, and get dressed as if I was going to an office.
yeah.
Okay. So I mean, there's a lot of psychology around
There is.
being an entrepreneur, and what keeps you going. And what you try to build is a solid baseline that you say, okay, here we are. Okay, I got a grip on this. This can turn into something better as we work on it.
Yeah. Do you have any tools or strategies that help you maintain that sense of balance between work and outside of work?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say a tool, but it's more about the focus and the attitude.
Yeah.
There are tools out there that I use today, like Notion. It's an amazing tool that combines all kinds of apps into one, and that's the thing, that keeps you going. But the other answer to this, Parnell, is that I've and this happened later after consulting. Um, there is a book called 12 Week Year, um, and and that book talks about make 12 weeks like a year plan, like a yearly plan into 12 weeks. So you have, so when you say, I want to get X amount of cases out there of our product by year end, I want to focus on my quarter. So what am I doing for the next 12 weeks? And where do I want to be in 12 weeks? And then I do another 12 weeks and 12 weeks, and we go on.
Huh.
But the breaking that down, it was important to be able to say, okay, I got to reach certain milestones within 12 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting too. And it gives you, it's easy to think big picture sometimes, as an entrepreneur. And sometimes it's really
Absolutely.
hard to break that down into smaller, really digestible steps
Correct.
that
And
get you
that's
to where you want to be for the year. And it sounds like that book was really instrumental in helping you with that focus.
absolutely. And it's and I keep doing that. And we we use it today in our business that we are. I have a colleague who also uses it, and we came together and having a conversation. We're like, okay, now we're on the same page. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is about breaking that goal down.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have boundaries you've established for from work and play or work and outside of work?
Yes, I have, but they were not strict. Okay, so I did have I've always had the mentality of sharing with family. Okay, and to me is important, and I gave up a few things of being an entrepreneur just to, you know, be with my kids and certain activities. I wouldn't miss them because I know what it means to them for you to be there or for you to not be there.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of traveling, and but at the end, when I was home, I tried to disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think is the most rewarding part of owning your own business?
Well, the rewarding part is that you own your destiny. It's your effort, and you don't depend on someone else. Although our business depends on others, um, that to me is very difficult because you are going 200 miles an hour, and but your network is not going at 200 miles an hour, right? So,
Right.
so you want to get it done. You want to, hey, let's make a deal. Oh wait, I'm going on vacation.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you in 2 weeks, and you're like, oh gosh, I wanted to get that deal done, and you end up getting it done. But it's the frustrating part is the speed at which I want to work.
Sure.
It
Yeah.
doesn't fit into my network or my clients.
I hear that from a lot of folks that are business owners, right? Nobody moves as fast as I do. And and
Absolutely.
it's because you know what you want to do. You know what you want to get accomplished. But like the earlier part of that you talked about was just the freedom and the control. And it is an amazingly empowering feeling, right? Once you
Yes,
get
it is.
past some of the fears, once you get
Yes.
past some of the concerns, you start to build a business, you start to see income that you feel good about, you can live with and you're happy with, it becomes incredibly empowering, going forward. So, is there a moment or a milestone that made you stop and think, this is why I started this business?
Yeah, and it wasn't with the business we're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, that business, the Orinoco Spirits, is a business that's doing well, and it pays our bills and does everything. But it's a business where I really don't need to do much.
Hmm.
Okay, it's rolling. It's, we get orders from our distributors. They're selling. They have their structure. They have their salespeople. They have everything. Um, so um, the question was on some of the success. You say, hey, I made it. On the side, I had another company that I was a partner in that had natural cleaning products, and I'm always looking for the next big thing. And they invited me to join, and I was a minority ownership there. And long story short, we had Disney Laundry, we had Coca-Cola of Puerto Rico using our
Wow.
product, we had Six Flags using our product. So we're like, man, we made it. And here is where the failure comes. Um, Ecolab, which is the largest chemical company out there in terms of cleaning products, and they paid Disney over $10 million to to not allow us into Disney.
Wow.
And the same thing happened with Coca-Cola. So in Coca-Cola, we started in Puerto Rico because we had a good access to the CEO there, and the story is funny because we eliminated the Sunday shift of cleaning. What Ecolab had, they had 4 hours of cleaning time on Sunday. We did it in 40 minutes on Saturday, and so you're like, we made it. I mean, these guys, Coca-Cola. I mean, what a amazing client to have.
Yeah.
But they got us. They threw the money there as well. So it
Wow.
and so it really became a challenge. But that feeling of success comes when you get some of these bigger
Yeah.
deals happening.
Yeah. If you could go back, right? Is there one thing you would do differently, or some big decision maybe or approach you wish you'd handled differently?
Um, yeah, I mean, if we're referring to like Orinoco Spirits, I could have started a network while I was still in corporate as a side hustle. Um,
Interesting.
and and when I hear some people walking out of corporate and you ask, do you have a plan? And they're like, no, not really. I'm going to figure it out. That's trouble. That's major trouble.
Yeah.
So I did have it in mind to continue in the spirits business, but I had not found that opportunity until I came across that gentleman, that Polish vodka
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
had. Um, but it's about building on the side as much as you can, and most likely like preparing your network
Yeah.
to say, okay, I'm going to go do this, and will you help, and start understanding who's the one who's going to help you on
Yeah.
with your projects.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, and that's really that segues it kind of into my next question around, somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, Dell, I'm thinking about getting into business ownership. Are there real practical steps that you might recommend to them for somebody that wants to learn a little bit more about it?"
Uh, yeah, and I always question myself because I didn't do it. Um, and it's probably easier to buy a business that's already running.
Hmm.
Although it's going to cost you more upfront, they already went through the trouble. They already went through the startup. They already went through the tough times. So, I mean, that's the position I am in now,
Yeah.
where I became a partner of a company that was already, generating revenue, but they needed a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of changes of moving a family business, which started as an entrepreneurship, into a corporation that doesn't lose that family touch.
Yeah.
But that recommendation for anyone that wants to start is consider buying a business.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Are there any misconceptions about business ownership that you'd want them to know?
Um, I think I mentioned it, but when I said to you, who's going to help you, who
Yeah.
do you expect help from,
Yeah.
um, and what your title meant.
Yeah.
And so it was more important, the title, than the name
Hmm.
at the time. So yeah, I think that kind
Okay.
of addresses that question.
Anything you would tell them about how to prepare emotionally or financially for the challenges ahead?
Absolutely. 12 years of income, reserved.
12 years or
Um,
12 months?
oh, sorry, 12 months. I need some coffee.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
1 year of your salary. So, and if it's more, better, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
you have to have a financial base. You can't just hop out and give it a
Yeah.
try. You
Yeah.
have to have some back. You have to be backed up financially.
Yeah. What about emotionally? The ups and downs, that you can
Yeah,
run
that's
into.
tough. It is. That's tough. But that's tough. But if you understand where you're heading, you can ride it. And it always be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very hard. I mean, unless you have something very unique that nobody else has, it will take double time and double money and amount of money to do whatever you were planning to do.
Yeah. I had somebody on the other day, and he talked about not getting too high with the good the goods and not getting too low with the valleys, and kind of keeping an
Absolutely.
even keel, because you're going to have
Absolutely.
those moments where you feel like you're on top of the world, and you're going to have those days where
Yes.
you're like, what did I do? You know?
Yes,
So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, riding that roller coaster is a difficult one. Um, yes.
Okay, rapid fire, some wrap up questions for you. If you could have dinner with any entrepreneur, past or present, who would it be and why?
There's so many out there. Um, I think Mark Cuban would be one.
Cubes.
He's, I mean, he started mowing lawn and mowing the lawn and it's just a great story. I mean, of having a vision and I think that entrepreneurship is someone who has a vision. Because otherwise you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be, I think Mark Cuban would be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. You mentioned Notion earlier, but is there one business tool or app that you just could not live without?
I mean, I did hundreds of models in Excel. So
All
I
right.
mean, and I still do them. I look at a business and I put a model together and I start doing numbers and I say, does this make sense? How are we going to make money? What's the strategy? I'm all about numbers because numbers make decisions for you.
Yeah,
So I'm all about that, and I'm also all about, you know, automation and trying to get something done by someone else.
yeah,
And if you get people to work for you, it's better.
yeah.
So it's entrepreneurship is much better when you got someone doing the work for you.
I talk to people all the time, and I ask them when they are going to stop being somebody else's passive income, you know, because
Absolutely.
that's what they're doing. They're making somebody else money.
Right.
So, yeah,
Exactly. So
yeah,
what we do in Orinoco is our distributors are the ones that are working for us.
sure, sure, sure.
And that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the most unconventional piece of business advice you've ever received that actually?
Unconventional. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know. I did so many things that I don't know. To me, they're conventional. So,
Yeah, gotcha. No, that's
um,
all right. If you had to describe your business in a movie title, what would it be?
get others to work for you.
Okay. Last but not least, one guilty pleasure that helps you unwind after a long day working on your business.
Oh, you know it. You know that one. A single malt.
Yeah, yeah.
A single malt. On ice, and it's
That's
that's
it.
the bottom line of enjoying life. Having that whatchamacallit, that moment to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a moment that you relax, but your mind is
Oh, yeah, yeah,
cranking, cranking, cranking.
yeah, yeah. Awesome. Del, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you,
Ladies,
Pernell.
no, glad to have you. Folks, Del Paez, long and tenured background, a number of couple businesses now on his own. So thanks again very much for joining us. I'm Parnell Woodard. This is The Pivot Point. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.